Hi, this is Al Snow, WWE Superstar, host of Sunday Night Heat and the $1 Million Tough Enough, and you're listening to the Interactive Interview.
You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the Interactive Interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com.
With our special guest, Al Snow. Al, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing fantastic. It's great to have you on. We just had you do a header for us, and you mentioned that you're doing the $1 Million Tough Enough right now. First question for you is, how are you enjoying doing the training work on the new Tough Enough?
Well, I always enjoy it. I always, enjoy working with the guys and doing the training. It's something that I look forward to, and really think that it's going to be my legacy in this business.
I know that you're not really involved in picking the winners, but is there anybody that you're personally enjoying at this time?
There's several. Out of the 8, there was one. Unfortunately, he was the first one that got cut. It was a leading favorite of mine as far as personality, charisma, and in-ring ability, but the audience really didn't a chance to see that, and the audience eliminated him.
We usually go in a timely manner, a chronological order, so let me ask you this question. Were you a wrestling fan growing up?
Absolutely.
Who?
I was a wrestling fan as a small child. The original Chief, Ed Farhat, had its territory in Ohio and Indiana, Michigan, parts of Pennsylvania, Kentucky, and I grew up watching that. And then when he went out of business, then Ted Turner's organization came in, and it was Georgia Championship Wrestling when it first came back on the air.
Yep.
And I fell in love with it again immediately. That was what made me decide that's what I wanted to do for a living.
Well, earlier on, you were a martial arts expert. How did that result in you becoming, I know you just told us what got you involved, but how did that result in you deciding to get trained in wrestling?
Oh, the martial arts training and stuff had nothing to do with wrestling. I mean, I literally saw wrestling and just immediately fell in love with it and made that decision, conscious decision, that was what I wanted to do.
Okay. Early in your career, you worked for MCW, which I guess was Midwest Championship Wrestling. How did you enjoy your time in that territory?
It was a great starting point in my career. The guy who operated Midwest Championship Wrestling was also the guy who trained me, and it was good learning ground.
I probably should know this, but what was that guy's name?
Jim Lancaster. He was his real name was Jim Painter. He performed as Jim Lancaster, Smasher Stone. He was kind of a journeyman. The wrestling business had been working for probably 10 or 12 years when I met him, and at that time, and then convinced him or begged him to train me, take me under his wing, and be responsible for me.
In 1994, you defeated Dan the Beast Severn to win the GWA championship. How did you enjoy working for Dan the Beast Severn? Working against Dan the Beast Severn, sorry.
Well, I had trained Dan Severn for professional wrestling, and then I also trained Dan for the first Ultimate Fight that he was involved in, the UFC 4. And getting the chance to work with Dan in the ring, it was a teacher-student type of situation. And we've worked several times before that and several times since. And it was always fun. It was fun to get in there with him. He has a little bit of an unusual or unique style. And it was fun to see if I could help him to adapt to the pro wrestling style and see if I could adapt to his style.
Did you think that he was going to make it into WWE?
I thought that he had the potential. I certainly, felt that he had a marketing niche that could allow him to have a unique gimmick or character that would allow him to, maybe find a spot there. But I didn't know if he could adapt enough to the WWE style to survive once he got there.
Of course, when you won that title, I didn't mention this, but you were wrestling under the name of Shinobi. Where did the Shinobi character come from?
The Shinobi character was basically when I was running my training school. I wanted to, if we went to a place where there was a particular student's hometown, then I had adopted the Shinobi character to go and work with the students in their hometown, make sure I could carry them, make sure they had a really good match, looked really good in front of their hometown friends and family, and then have them beat me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I could come back out and work on the show in a regular match or two where I was needed. And so in order to do that, what I did was I literally adopted completely different mannerisms. I tried to move differently so that people wouldn't suspect that it was me who was under the hood and Shinobi. And that way I could be two complete different personalities.
Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. They used to do that way back in Mid-South, Honky Tonk Man used to say. So,
and really what it happened was that it started out in that vein of just, going and utilizing it to help the students. And it became so popular that I started getting booked more as Shinobi than I did as Al Snow.
In 1995, you finally signed a contract with the WWF. Was this a lifelong dream come true?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in 1995, it just was an incredible year because I had, had been working for so hard for so long. And then, right before that, I had went to, go to UFC with Dan. I went to Japan for Kitao Dojo, and then I started working for ECW the first time through, and then, went to work for Cornette and Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and then, off the notoriety I gained from working there, at WCW asked me for a tryout match, and then WWF, ultimately offering me a contract.
That's right.
It was like it was everything that I had worked for basically 13 and a half years.
That's right. You just mentioned Smoky Mountain Wrestling. I remember you teamed with Unabomb, who's now is Kane. How do you get along with Kane?
He's a great guy. He's very intelligent and very personable, and just a wonderful person.
That's cool. That's cool. Here's another one of those who came up with his character gimmicks, but who came up with Avatar?
Avatar was Vince McMahon's idea, and it just, it was, I guess the timing was wrong. I think what he was searching for or was hoping for was something along the lines of what Hurricane had. But it just, situation and timing and everything, it just wasn't the right thing at the right time. And not to mention that I'd spent the last almost nearly 14 years working as a heel in the business, and right before that, it had just had a run as a smart-ass chicken shit heel that, I got over by talking, being a coward. And now all of a sudden I'm just go out there and be a superhero. It was a bit of a departure, and, the timing was off because they were supposed to do, when we originally discussed it, Vince and I, that I was going to do these vignettes to explain the character to the public, the audience, before I arrived. Those weren't done. I was just put on TV and had literally just gotten the outfit finished like a week before, and I really couldn't see out of it. And there was just a lot of, it just wasn't the right time.
So I take it that wasn't your favorite time in the business?
No, it was pretty frustrating. I'd worked my entire career to get to that point, and then, that character didn't really work, and so I ended up sitting home for about 8 or 9 months. And very difficult to get this business to work because that's what you want to do. And, I wasn't making any money because at that time, they didn't have downside guarantees. It was, you only worked if you got paid. And it was a very tough time. Very, very, very tough. And I wanted it so bad that sometimes my passion and my frustration and my desire ended up making me cut my nose off to spite my own face.
Right.
And ruining some of the opportunities that I did end up getting shortly thereafter.
RSBH123 is a member of our forums. He just wants to ask a question here. Is when you joined or were paired with Marty Jannetty as the new Rockers, did you feel that there was a lot to live up to compete with the old Rockers?
Not really. I mean, I wanted to. It was going to be our own team, and it was going to be in a new direction, and so I wasn't really looking to necessarily compete with the old Rockers.
Mm-hmm.
And it might sound a little bit arrogant of me, but at the time I felt that I could have we could gel. That Marty and I could have been just as good. Just as long as you're in there with the right opponents.
Do you feel the tag team has ever given the proper opportunity?
You mean as the new Rockers was given the proper opportunity?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think it was given opportunities, but I don't think that it was ever intended to be a main attraction or be brought up to a certain level in the first place. Not to mention that Marty really didn't put his heart into it or really wanted to pursue it. And also my, like I said, they're cutting my nose off to spite my own face a couple of times. I'm sure it didn't help either.
You eventually ended up in ECW, and the question I've always had about that time period, which really intrigued me, was were you still under WWE contract at the time?
Yes, I was.
So it was kind of a talent swap?
In a way. I mean, it was a situation where I was very frustrated with my position in WWF, and to the point to where I asked for my release. And WWF had an option to roll over my contract for a third year, in which they did. They took that action, and I basically wanted to quit, and they wouldn't let me. So at that time, they had a working agreement with Paul Heyman, and I basically begged Paul Heyman to allow me to go to work there, because I knew that if I stayed in WWF, my situation was not going to improve. And I knew that I needed to go somewhere else to get myself over, so that either ECW would pay to keep me, WCW would pay to steal me, or WWF would pay to get me back, and create a circumstance or situation where I could do that. And so that was what I did. I begged up Paul Heyman, and at the time, a good friend of mine, Chris Candido, was like Paul's right-hand man, and Chris was instrumental in talking Paul into talking to Vince. And basically, I was still under contract to WWF, but I wasn't getting paid by them. I was getting paid by Paul. And I went and worked for Paul.
And what you mentioned, the three options that you wanted to have happen out of that was to get brought back to the WWF, which eventually did happen. And a lot of people credit that to the head character. Where did the idea to bring the mannequin head to the ring come from?
Well, where it came from was I had started doing is just I was about to leave WWF. I was trying to do things that showed that I was having a nervous breakdown. But the frustration was finally starting to wear on me to the point where I was, cracking.
Right.
Losing my touch with reality. I figured that was a logical progression for the character. One, because Lee Cassidy, if anybody was that happy, he had to be insane. And two, if anybody knew my circumstances, they would understand that if you pursued something as hard as I had for that many years and never really met with the success I wanted, eventually you're going to go crazy.
Right.
And, I did different things to manifest that in the ring, to kind of show it, demonstrate it, and never really quite getting it across. And one night I came back to ECW Arena, and came backstage. We were taking some pictures with for the Japanese magazine with Sasuke and some other Japanese wrestlers, and I saw a styrofoam head there, and I picked it up and started taking pictures with it. And I remember Mick Foley and Sid Vicious and Bob Holly and I were all traveling in the car one night, and Mick had a styrofoam head that he kept his Mankind mask on, and he was kind of joking around a little bit and acting like, it was his girlfriend, and he was calling it Elaine. But he wasn't really talking to it as much as he was just saying that it was his girlfriend and he was going to take it back to the hotel room and, goofy stuff like that. And so I thought, I'd been talking to myself in the ring and that wasn't really working. And I thought, well, I'm going to carry this out and I'm going to start talking to it as if it's a real person. And I kept doing it, and just kept doing it. And at the time, Paul just, he'd say, "I hate your manager. I don't get it. Blah blah blah." And then, in all places, one night in Stamford, Connecticut, we were doing a Halloween show. Paul came up to me and goes, "You're going to be the next cult babyface." And I said, "Whatever." And it just, once it took off from there. And I owe Paul a lot for allowing me just the freedom to do it. And then until he caught on to it, and then and once he caught on to it, got with it, it just went up and took off.
Were you surprised it caught on as well as it did?
I don't know if I was surprised. I still don't quite understand it. Why people seem to relate to it so much. But it was. I think it really did catch on, and I think the reason it did was because people could believe. I mean, if you were to ask 9 out of 10 people until the Tough Enough series came out, if I were really insane, they would say yes. I was really legitimately crazy, and I think that's because to a certain extent I felt crazy. I had all this frustration and all this passion and all this desire build up in me, and dealing with that head and directing a lot of my anger and a lot of my frustration and bitterness out on that head in the promos and stuff. I think it came across very real and believable because it was. I mean, I made a lot of statements about how frustrated I was in those promos.
Absolutely. At WrestlePalooza, you wrestled Shane Douglas for the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, we interviewed Shane Douglas, and he says he still to this day doesn't really know why they had him go over. Could you shed any light on that?
I have no idea. I know that, I think the fans wanted to see me win. I think that, I'm not saying it from a bragging standpoint, but I think that I was over enough that it would have been good business to have had me win and to go over. And then, if nothing else, just the following week on TV, just have Taz beat me for the title.
Right.
I've never understood it. I don't worry about it. It doesn't consume my waking days, waking hours, wondering about it. But I've still been very, curious as to what exactly took place and as to what was Paulie's thinking behind it. But I just think it would have been a smarter move, in a lot of ways.
Well, yeah, because he was so injured at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe it was Paulie's way of swerving the audience because, it's well known that Shane was legitimately injured, and so they just assumed that automatically I was going to get the belt. And so it was a way to swerve everybody. And if I had stayed in ECW, maybe, down the road, it would have been my opportunity to have won the belt, and then it would have meant a lot more,
Yeah.
I would have been somebody healthy, and, but I always make a joke that night at WrestlePalooza I became Dr. Sam Shepard because I couldn't defeat the one-armed man. I became the fugitive.
Yeah. Good point.
And for those of you out there that don't know who Dr. Sam Shepard is, he's the doctor, what the story in the film and the TV show called The Fugitive is based on.
Right. Rent the movie.
In the movie, and who actually did end up becoming a professional wrestler of his own, and was the first person who invented the mandible claw that Mick Foley used as Mankind, and then again as Mick Foley with Socko.
I did not know the last part of that. That's pretty interesting. I did not know he became a wrestler. That's pretty cool.
He did. That's where the mandible claw came from.
Ah. So they eventually did bring you back to the WWF. Were you relieved to be brought back there, or were you still skeptical about the way you might be used?
I guess I was still skeptical. I still was having a lot of that remaining bitterness and everything. It's very hard to get rid of that, to let it go.
Right.
And I realized that for me, for my sake, it was probably best to let it go because I had sabotaged. When I look back and I think about it, I sabotaged myself in a lot of ways because of letting it control me so much and drive me, and to the point to where I can think back to having conversations and, with people, key people, and in that frustration and bitterness came through, and probably made them go, well, screw this, we're not going to do this with him, we're not going to do that with him. And when I think they were hoping that I would have, if I'd just said the right thing or acted the right way, I think I would have had a lot more success at that time in my career. But, things happen for a reason.
Right.
All the way they fall, and, you do what you have to do. So.
Were you happy, or did you enjoy your feud with Jerry Lawler and Too Much or Too Cool, or whatever you want to call him?
I didn't. I did, but I didn't, because it was again another, I still wasn't quite in the right frame of mind. And, Vince, since it wasn't his idea, didn't really understand or relate to the gimmick.
Right.
To the head gimmick, since it wasn't his. So, it was good, but in a way, and in a way it wasn't, because again, here I come from another company where I was a big fish in a little pond.
Right.
And then I come up there, and, I'm a little fish in a big pond. And,
right.
And it's hard to change gears and realize that you've got to start over again. So, again, I don't think I was in the proper frame of mind or proper place mentally to have really enjoyed it.
What was your take on the Job Squad?
Well, the Job Squad was started as a joke, and the catering. I made jokes about it, and I told people in ECW, and they insisted I sell T-shirts, and then it became a wrestling angle. And my idea of doing the wrestling angle, and which probably really would have been done, but the way it was, the Job Squad was, we were jobbers, and they were basically saying we were. My suggestion was that frustration be played out on TV, and start seeing guys go out there, and and it's through behavior, not necessarily statements, but behavior. You can tell that Bob Holly and Tuco Scorpio are wrestling two guys, and the two guys are supposed to win, and then all of a sudden Bob Holly and Tuco Scorpio hook them and roll them up 1, 2, 3 and roll out. We start rebelling against the norm because we're tired of just beat. But that, just really skirting that line of
reality and
suspension of disbelief.
Right, absolutely. Do you ever think that line has been crossed in wrestling?
Well, I think it has in some ways, but you know what? I mean, fans are so sophisticated this day that they understand that it's not a competitive situation.
Right.
It's like when you go to watch a movie.
Right.
That Spider-Man's not real. It doesn't swing from buildings. It doesn't actually exist.
Right.
But you can suspend your disbelief and get drawn into the story and enjoy it for what it is. The same as magic. I mean, David Copperfield does not actually make the Statue of Liberty disappear. But he's so good that you can suspend your disbelief while you're being there, and you can be entertained. And that's the same with wrestling. It's no different. I mean, what we do is all very real. It's all very physical. It all actually does happen. All of it hurts. But it's not a competitive situation. And but if you can, if you're really good and can do it at a certain level, people can suspend their disbelief and can get drawn into the story.
Question coming in from our forums again is, this one's from Game Time. He'd like to know if you feel the hardcore division was used properly, and do you think the hardcore division could still be useful in the WWE today?
Well, I think that the hardcore division started to get a little bastardized towards the end. It got kind of misdirected, but I think that it could still be used, today. I think that it's, it should be a case where, those kind of matches are limited, though. If they had a hardcore belt, that the usage and defense of it be limited to only a couple, times a month or something on TV or, on a pay-per-view, simply because the abuse that you can take in that kind of a match, suspension of disbelief would be far greater than a regular match, and if that were the case, then of course you're going to need a lot larger amount of time to recover before the next one.
That makes perfect sense. Here's a bit of a downer question coming in. It's you work with the Big Boss Man at Unforgiven 1999. Do you have any memories of Ray Traylor?
Ray Traylor was just a wonderful human being. He was a really terrific guy. It's sad. It's really a shame that he had such an untimely death. He had two beautiful children that are going to miss out on having such an incredible father. And that's what's really sad.
Yeah, absolutely. Got a bit of a goofy question coming in here now. For a time with your feud with the Brood, it seemed like the head changed its appearance a little bit from help me to fear me. Why was the change so quick? I know that's really a weird question.
Well, it wasn't so quick as much as when that occurred. It was I was kind of doing things. I'd always had a plan because I had several heads with different looks.
Right.
And it had always been my idea that I would start to bring them out at some point with representing different personalities that the head had. So the reason I brought that one out was because of the fact that they had given me a blood bath the week before or whatever, and I was trying to show that I had been drove even further over the edge.
Right.
You know? And that's why it happened kind of quick, and then it just kind of disappeared because Vince didn't like the look of it. It was pretty ugly. I made it look pretty nasty.
Yeah, I remember it. Question here from another forum member would like to know how you enjoyed your team with Steve Blackman.
I enjoyed the stuff that I did with Steve Blackman immensely. I thought that the things that we did outside the ring were some of the best stuff that I had done. In the ring, we just didn't click. It was just, we were on different pages. I mean, Steve's a great guy, but we just didn't click in the ring. Outside of the ring, gosh, it was perfect. It got to the point when our vignettes were on, at that little time that we're on, the ratings would pop up. Because we almost had a show within a show.
Yeah, it was good comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Question here from another forum member would like to know, given Mavens' somewhat main event push of late, how do you feel any pride seeing how well he's doing these days?
Well, absolutely. I mean, Maven is one of the guys, that carry on and will be my legacy or immortality in this business. It's something that I've given back to this business. For what anybody says or, what comments or opinions they want to make, Maven carries my mark on it. And his success is a boon to me. His failure would be just as much a detriment to me. I take that very seriously. It's the way that I was trained. That's why I call them my kids. It's because the guy who trained me called me his kid, because that's how I'm referred to in this business, as Jim Lancaster's kid. The old-timers who were around before Jim call him up, and, they'll see me on TV, and, hey, I see your kid doing this, I see your kid doing that. He's still, to this day, he gets the phone calls. He's still responsible. And, I still feel very much responsible for the success or failure of Maven and all the others. Because I'm the one who broke them. I'm the one who trained them. I'm the one who impressed upon them what it was they wanted to learn and where they wanted to go with it.
I'm not sure if you can answer this question, but is there anybody that did not reach the success that you hoped they would, that you trained?
No, not really. I mean, there are lots of guys that I wish nothing but the best for. I wish that there's a lot of circumstances in this business. Guys that could be incredibly talented, have a ton of charisma and size, everything, and just it's just not the right time. It's just not timing, or they sabotage themselves, and so it's hard to say that there's one person that you could say, that should have been, or I expected to have much greater success, and I'm disappointed that they did.
Right. In 2001, of course, WCW and ECW folded within months of themselves. Were you, as an insider of the business, surprised to see this happen?
I was disappointed.
Hmm.
And, a little concerned because I think that this business, any business, thrives on competition. I think Vince McMahon thrives on competition.
Hmm.
And was I surprised? I don't, I guess I wasn't necessarily surprised with ECW, especially with everything that was coming out of there. As it was a smaller company. But WCW, I was a bit shocked to take it back.
Hmm.
But I think that was just an inevitable. I mean, the inmates were running the asylum to a certain extent, and WCW was just the bastard stepchild of, at that time, Time Warner and Turner Broadcasting. And
Right.
of course, wrestling, period, is the bastard stepchild of any entertainment. When it's being the parent company isn't a wrestling company; it's more of a entertainment company that they feel that that wrestling's more a sideshow attraction than anything else, and so they probably figured it was a black eye.
Right.
Could have been something else,
Hmm.
some other type of business, and I think that it would probably still be around in spite of its financial losses until it turned around.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you. Next question I have for you, and we're coming to the end, so don't worry, I'm not going to keep you too much longer, is Tommy Dreamer. You've had a few matches with Tommy Dreamer, and of course you team with him quite a bit. How do you get along with Tommy?
Tommy's a great guy. He really is. Tommy's one of the better people in this business. He's a hard worker, and he sacrifices his body, his personal life, everything. He really loves it.
All the way back to the promo, you mentioned that you're the host of Sunday Night Heat. How do you enjoy doing color commentary, and once you're officially retired from the ring, is that what you still want to do in this business?
I really enjoy doing the color commentary. It's got its own challenges. It's different. It's unique. And it's not as easy as a lot of people think it is. That's for sure. I found that out real fast, and found it out the hard way. But I don't know what I'll do once it gets to the point where I'm completely retired and I'm no longer performing in the ring to any degree or another. I really don't know, because I've been doing this for 22 years. I've been doing this my entire adult life, and it's all I'm looking to do. And, if I'm lucky enough to I guess, commentate or train, then, and still be affiliated with the business, then, thank God, because I really don't know what I want to be when I grow up.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear. They did a feud with you last year where you teamed with Jonathan Coachman against Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler. How did you enjoy that feud?
Oh, I enjoyed it a lot. I was happy to be a part of it, and it just it made sense at the time.
Yeah, I guess so. On the Indies, you seem to be working quite a bit as well. I read the match that you just wrestled Chris Candido recently, who you mentioned was your friend, and I know that you wrestled Marty Jannetty earlier in the year. How do you enjoy the Indies, and what exactly is your availability for any bookers that might be listening to this?
I'm very available as far as availability. I mean, right now at the moment, since I'm doing Tough Enough, I can only take bookings primarily on the East Coast that are within driving distance of Connecticut, because of my responsibilities to Tough Enough, because I'm there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But as far as in the future, I'm always available, and I enjoy it a lot. I enjoy getting out there, and it gives I have the freedom to work as long as I want, or to really work, to feel what the audience wants, and if the audience is there, I'll go 45 minutes, I'll go an hour, and I mean, I'll go hard too. And if the audience isn't there, I'll go whatever the audience wants me to go. I think that people that come and watch me know that I'm not a walker and a talker. I take great pride in going out there and working really hard, and I work really hard, whether it's 5 people in the audience or 5,000. It makes no difference to me. Those 5 or 5,000 are going to get their money's worth. And pretty low maintenance. Pretty proud of the fact that I'm low maintenance. I show up, I'll dress with everybody else, and treat everybody with respect, and try to help the promoters out by doing a few promos or interviews for them when they call and request it, when and where I can, and really try to work with them.
I actually got an email question here from Marty Jannetty, believe it or not. He asked me to ask you any questions regarding ribs, and he mentioned something about rap music and a pool. I don't know exactly what he's referring to.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Marty Jannetty, we had him on the show recently, and I spoke to him, and he asked me to ask you this question via email. He said, ask you your favorite ribs, and he mentions one involving a pool and rap music. I don't know what that means.
Pool and rap. Well, it's hard to tell with Marty because when I used to travel with Marty, it was like, honest to God, it was like Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom. I never knew what was going to happen.
Right.
I really never knew. He was always doing something. In fact, he referred to me as his amusement toy because he just, every time I turn around, I walk in the hotel room and he had the whole place booby-trapped. And you know, in the car, he was constantly doing stuff. And I remember, you know, one time we were going to Green Bay, I think it was Wisconsin, from Milwaukee or something. I was trying to get him back, so I, you know, just a goofy little rib. I bought a condom, and stuck it on the outside of the bathroom door at a gas station, figuring that, you know, he'd have to try and open the bathroom door.
Right.
Stuck it on the doorknob. Well, you know, of course, unfortunately, a guy gets to it before him and takes it off. He doesn't have to bother with it if he's touching it or anything like that. Well, I don't know it, but he gets back in the car and doesn't say anything about it. I ask him about it, and he tells me, you know, the guy found it. Well, then he keeps it in his pocket, and then he bumps into me when we get out of the car, there at the building, and sticks it in my back pocket to where it's hanging out, and then lets me walk around the building for about an hour with rubber hanging. So, he was really good. He was very creative. And,
yeah.
I'm trying to remember the pool and the rap music. It's hard to, honest to God, I mean, there's so many I can't remember. I know that the last rib that we did, though, was either Davey Boy or Owen Hart had padlocked a pair of Marty's tights. Literally put a padlock on them so they couldn't wear it. And he was pretty, you know, it took him like 3 weeks to get the thing off there. And we were in upstate New York for, I don't know how many, like 5 or 7 days or 8 days. He would go to the grocery store and buy food and keep it in the hotel room. He bought this peel and eat shrimp. He kept the brine for about 4 days until we finally went to, I think it was Portland, Maine, or Bangor, Maine. It was the last day on the tour. And he kept this brine to where it smelled horrible in the hotel room. And we got to the building, and Davey and Owen knew something was up, and we went and bring their bags. And we finally bought their bags and went to the ring to work. I stood lookout, and so did Mike Yoda. Marty poured the brine into Davey's suitcase, and Davey came back and assumed Owen had done it, and poured it into Owen's suitcase. So, not to mention all the other things that Marty did to Davey and Owen between that time, but we want to get into that.
Yeah, I know. He told us quite a bit of his rib stories when we did the interview with him. That was quite honestly, he might not be the biggest star ever, and we've had everybody from Flair to Sting to Savage on the show, but his completely dominates the downloads on our show because we keep track of it, because his ribs were just so hysterical that everybody just wanted to hear them.
Oh my God, you have no idea. The guy just, if you left him alone and let him get bored for more than 5 minutes, I mean, his mind just worked like that. He immediately started looking for ways to create or get into trouble. And he was good. He was really good. But I have to say, I think the best rib that I've pulled, and I think anybody else has pulled to this date, is when I was doing the pepper angle, and I put Val Venus' cell phone number on TV.
I did not even know that. So you put his phone number on TV?
Yeah, they asked me to, Vince Russo came to me, and when they kidnapped Pepper, and asked me to make a lost and found poster, or, you know, a lost poster. So I made a poster, and of course they always have a phone number at the bottom.
Right.
So Venus' cell phone. Took his phone number and put it on the bottom of the thing. It was for Sunday Night Heat, and I didn't tip the camera crew or anything to it. I just showed it, and we were in Philadelphia, and they had a monitor. We were in Philadelphia for our show, and they had a monitor backstage, and Sunday Night Heat came on, and that came on, and I went, uh-oh, I walked out of the room. And that night, about 5 minutes after the segment aired, Val got like a phone call, asking about the dog, and his mom bred dogs. So he said, oh, you got the wrong number, and he didn't even think twice about it. Mm-hmm. And the next night, Vince Russo comes up to me and he goes, hey, I want you to do it again. I said, fine. So I put Val Venus' phone number on it again on Raw, and I told the camera guy, I said, when I point to this phone number, zoom in. And I said, so I kept saying, oh, I'm really heartbroken. I need to find Pepper. Call me if you find it. When I say call me, the camera would zoom in on the phone number.
Right.
And he'd zoom back out. He'd pull back out, and I would talk. Please help me find my dog. Call me.
Right.
And then again. That night, Val got probably thousands of phone calls to the point to where it overloaded his phone, overloaded his pager, and it just kept ringing. One after another, all night to where the next day he had to change his phone.
Was he angry with you about this?
Oh no, Val's a terrific guy, and he just he took it all in good stride. But he's yet to ever have gotten.
All right. Do you mind if we close out with a few word associations?
Sure.
If you want to give us a story, that's fine. If you just have a one-word answer, that's fine too. Whichever you want to do.
I'll try.
First name on the list is Paul Heyman.
Paul Heyman, Evil Genius.
Evil Genius, that's a good one. Mick Foley.
Many faces.
Jim Ross.
Workaholic.
Shane Douglas.
Frustrated. At one time. I don't know if he was anymore.
Lance Storm.
Solid.
What was that?
Solid.
Ah, yeah. How about, I'll give the one at a time. Chris Candido.
Absolute love for the business.
How about Tammy Sitch?
Chris's sweetheart.
Let's thinking. How about Too Cold Scorpio?
Physically gifted.
And I guess there's only...
You'd understand why.
What'd you say?
As if you've seen him naked, you'd understand why. Anyway.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll leave it at that.
Not just in the ring, but on it.
Okay, and the last one I have for you is Vince McMahon.
True leader.
Well, we really can't thank you enough for your time, and if there's ever anything you need us to promote, you know how to reach me, and I'd be more than happy to help you out the best I can.
Well, thank you very much. I really enjoyed, doing the interview, and I apologize that it just took so long to do.
Not a problem. I understand that you're WWE employed, and that means you're very, very busy.
To say the least.
Yeah, I believe me, I know. Thank you very much, and stay tuned for more from the interactive interview.